The news from Guyana, the region and the world. Compiled in the News Talk Radio newsroom and powered by DemeraraWaves.com.
A very good morning to you. With the news at this time, I am Tiana Jordan. The news comes to you with the compliments of Eureka Medical Laboratories. To begin the news, here's a look at the lead stories. Locally, the Environmental Protection Agency is still searching for hard evidence to back up reports of pollution of the Atlantic Sea. A non-governmental organization wants the People's Progressive Party to table recommendations for constitutional reform. And in regional news, a senior military officer in Suriname has been held with more than 1,000 pounds of cocaine. The details of these and other stories coming up in just a moment.
A COVID-19 PCR test is now mandatory for many routine activities, including travel and return-to-work purposes. At Eureka, our trained and experienced staff will ensure confidentiality while your test is conducted in a professional and timely manner with results in just 48 hours. So the next time you require an efficient and hassle-free PCR COVID-19 test, call 624-8378, 608-8378, or 623-7233 to schedule your appointment. You can also ask about our house call testing service.
And now the news in detail. The Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, says it has come up empty-handed in efforts to locate a substance that has reportedly polluted a section of the Atlantic Sea offshore Guyana. Head of the EPA, Mr. Kemraj Parsram, says that due to bad weather, a fishing vessel returned to shore with a team of government officials. He says he was part of an aerial surveillance team, but nothing was also seen.
Cover the entire fishing area and close shore as well. And we covered the entire fishing zone within the 45 miles radius reported, and using our understanding of the currents, and I didn't see anything that resembled what was reported. Unfortunately, the fishing vessel as well couldn't make it out because of the weather condition. They left at 8 this morning, and because of the high waves and conditions and the safety of the staff, they had to return to shore.
He says that the EPA has begun making arrangements to obtain satellite imagery to determine whether there was any spill from any of the floating production, storage and offloading vessels, drill ships, or other vessels.
My next move is to depend on calling into the specific locations, all the potential operators offshore, to look at satellite imagery to see what happened over the past couple of days, to see if there was actually any leakage from any one of those. So right now it's not confirmed. I can't say it was from anything else, from any of the operators. So the investigation has to continue using the remote technology.
The EPA director is also appealing to any of the fisher folk who took the video to submit samples of the water if they had collected any.
I have also asked, and I'm pleading to the fishermen, whoever took the video, if they're taking any sample of that material and they can bring it to us, we can be able to test it and see, confirm whether it's oil and whether it's from any one of those operators.
Mr. Parsram says the National Oil Spill Committee of the Civil Defense Commission and the Fisheries Department of the Ministry of Agriculture are also involved. The Guyana government cannot afford a 20% wage and salary increase because the public sector wage bill is already high, and any such pay hike will reduce the purchasing power of more dollars in hand. Banking and finance expert Dr. Joel Bagwandin says that the 7% wage and salary increase retroactive to January 1st, 2020 is decent because, among other reasons, Among other reasons, it was above inflation at mid-year of 5.6%. He says the total employment cost for public servants is within the highest range, and that can be permitted when compared to the state's revenue at the moment. He says that businesses and government's employment cost is not recommended to be more than 15% to 30% of total revenue. Basing his calculation from data extracted from various annual reports, he said that in 2019, the central government's employment cost was 33.21% of total revenue. He also cautions that a 20% wage increase for public servants can potentially result in 25% inflation, which will have effectively diminished the purchasing power of the currency by 25%. The non-governmental civil society organization, Article 13, wants the government to put constitutional reform on the agenda. The organization says that is a better step than the Attorney General Anil Nandlal merely saying that the government cannot alone amend the constitution because it does not have a two-thirds majority. According to Article 13, that does not stop the governing People's Progressive Party from putting and promoting its ideas into the public domain. Article 13 notes that the political parties have rendered useless a new Section 11 to the Representation of the People Act, resulting from the reforms of 2000 and 2001 that provides for constituency seats. That organization says it is not true that it is calling for the political system to be restructured. Article 13 also wants the ruling party to share its ideas on the second round of electoral reforms. Guyana's coronavirus death toll has now passed 1,000. The Health Ministry says that dating back to March last year, 1,006 persons have now succumbed to COVID-19. Official figures show that a man and a woman in their 70s who were from Region 4, Demerara, Mahaica, are the latest deaths. The Health Ministry says that of the 54 persons who are hospitalized, 17 are very sick and are receiving intensive care. Doctors have ordered 913 persons to isolate themselves at home to avoid spreading the virus. There are 42 new cases. President Irfan Ali has announced plans to intensify Guyana's information communications technology ICT agenda. Addressing the Guyana Manufacturing and Services Association GMSA Awards dinner at the weekend, he said hundreds of communities would be connected to the internet later this year.
Currently, a program is on the way to install ICT hubs across the country to provide and improve connectivity. In this regard, we have earmarked US $17.4 million for improving internet connectivity in close to 200 communities throughout Guyana. This will be rolled out this year.
The president has also announced plans to set up a specialized information technology teaching learning facility.
Government is accelerating the process of increasing ICT literacy by providing equipment and software to schools, reforming the school's curriculum, and providing community-based training. And it is my intention to move towards establishing an International Institute of Technology in Guyana to further ICT literacy very soon.
Among the achievements by Dr. Ali's administration that he has pointed to are liberalization of the telecommunications sector, the removal of value-added tax from mobile data and cell phones, and the increasing number of fiber optic cables that are being landed here. 2 men have been arrested in connection with the alleged discovery of $12.5 million worth of marijuana in a car. Police say they found the marijuana in a car at a roadblock opposite the Weldad police station, West Coast, Berbice. Investigators say the driver of the car has since admitted that the marijuana belongs to him. He reportedly said that he was hired by the passenger. Those arrested are the driver of the car bearing license number PYY 9885 and a male passenger. Police say that when the car was stopped, the male passenger exited and began walking away, but he was apprehended. After police did not find anything illegal on the driver and the passenger, they say that they found 7 bulky parcels containing a quantity of leaves, seeds, and stems suspected to be cannabis. And now in regional news. A top officer of Suriname's National Security Directorate has been arrested, allegedly with more than 500 kilograms of cocaine. He has been identified only as 56-year-old Lieutenant Stephen J. Suriname's media reported on Sunday that about $10,000 in cash was also found and seized in the vehicle he was driving. He was arrested on Saturday evening, December 4th, near the checkpoint in Pekensaron in the Power District, said to be a major hub for narcotics destined for Europe and United States. Authorities said that Stephen J. tried to evade a roadblock on the way to Pekensaron and was pursued by members of the Regional Assistance Team, and he was intercepted. Agents said they found the cocaine in the vehicle, which is believed to have been collected from an airdrop. The Suriname's police force said 15 jute bags of white substance, presumably cocaine, weighing about 516 kilograms. The case would be handed over to the military police for further investigation. St. Vincent and the Grenadines Prime Minister, Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, has announced that his government will hire teachers, including retired educators, on short-term contracts. This is in response to teachers at a secondary school who protested the government's vaccine mandate for the second day in less than a week. He served notice during his weekly appearance in the state-owned NBC Radio as teachers at West St. George Secondary School responded to the call of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Teachers Union and sat in their staff room, refusing to go to classes. The teachers are standing in solidarity with their colleagues who have opted to not get vaccinated against COVID-19. Last Friday, the teachers at the school, where about 11 of the 31 educators are unvaccinated, wore black and sat in their classroom in protest. Unvaccinated teachers and other public sector workers for whom the jab is required but who have not obtained a medical or religious exemption had until Friday to take the jab or be deemed to have abandoned their post. Prime Minister Gonsalves said that he had heard about the stance of teachers at West St. George Secondary School, and the Ministry of Education was keeping him informed. In Antigua, a 24-year-old Grazer Farm resident has been charged in connection with the stabbing of Deputy Commissioner of Police Albert Wade last week. Police say that Austin Isaac is facing 3 charges, including inflicting grievous bodily harm. Antigua Newsroom reports that he is due to appear in court today. Isaac is alleged to have attacked Deputy Police Commissioner Wade after the senior lawman attempted to defuse a squabble between Isaac and another man Thursday night. And now for the international news, the latest coming from the BBC World Service.
BBC News. Hello, this is Jerry Smith. Myanmar's ousted civilian leader Aung San Suu Kyi has been sentenced to 4 years in prison. A spokesman for the ruling military junta said she'd been found guilty of inciting unrest and violating COVID restrictions during last year's election campaign. Dr. Sarsa, spokesman of Myanmar's National Unity Government in Exile, condemned the verdict.
Today's verdict is a shameful day for the rule of law, justice and accountability in Myanmar. This verdict has nothing to do with the rule of law, but has everything to do with the prolonging of military rules and reign of terror against the people of Myanmar. It is unfounded charges. It's destructions of our hopes, our democracy and freedom in Myanmar.
One of the scientists responsible for developing the Oxford AstraZeneca coronavirus vaccine in Britain has warned that a future pandemic could be even more lethal. Professor Dame Sarah Gilbert said funding was needed to ensure knowledge gained over the last 2 years was not lost.
We cannot allow a situation where we have gone through all we have gone through and then find that the enormous economic losses we have sustained mean that there is still no funding for pandemic preparedness. The experts who responded rapidly and worked relentlessly in 2020 and 2021, without whom we would still be at the mercy of the virus, must not now be asked to fade back into patient and underfunded obscurity.
Professor Gilbert said there was no reason why a universal flu vaccine could not be developed. Emergency crews in Indonesia have been forced to suspend their search for 27 people missing after a volcanic eruption due to strong winds and the threat of more ash. Mount Semeru, the biggest volcano on the island of Java, erupted on Saturday, killing at least 15 people. Rescuers have been trying to dig through the ash, soaked with rainwater, to look for survivors before the resulting mud hardens. President Putin is visiting Delhi today for a summit with the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The two are expected to sign several deals, including the delivery of fighter planes. With more, here's Rajini Vaidyanathan.
Russia is India's largest arms supplier. Much will be made today of the sale of S-400 surface-to-air missiles, which are now being delivered here. The US has said it's unhappy with India over this purchase and has threatened sanctions against it. But Delhi's strategic importance in countering China in the region might be why it's unlikely to take action.
The President of South Africa says the country is preparing for more hospital admissions as the Omicron coronavirus variant continues to spread. Cyril Ramaphosa said the number of daily infections has increased fivefold. News from the BBC. Israeli security forces say they've shot dead a Palestinian teenager after he drove a car into a military checkpoint in the occupied West Bank. An Israeli guard at the checkpoint was seriously injured. The incident took place near the city of Tulkarem. Police in the northeastern Indian state of Nagaland have launched a probe against soldiers over the killing of 14 civilians at the weekend. They say the commandos opened fire on a miner's van without any provocation. The military said its troops mistook the labourers for insurgents. The Hong Kong authorities say the Wall Street Journal newspaper may have broken the law by publishing an editorial that said casting blank ballots in upcoming elections was one of the last ways to voice dissent. It concluded that the polls were a sham vote because only pre-vetted candidates were allowed to run. Hong Kong's Secretary for Constitutional and Mainland Affairs warned the paper that it's now an offence to encourage others to boycott the polls or to cast spoiled ballots. Grime and drill artists have taken the major prizes at this year's Mobo Awards, which recognise the best in black music from Britain and beyond. It was the first in-person ceremony for 4 years. Mark Savage was there.
The Mobos finally returned. Drill music took centre stage, with the number one hit Body winning Best Single. Drill rapper Central C won Best Newcomer, but had mixed feelings.
I don't know how I feel about award shows, to be fair, but if there was one that I'd accept an award from, it would be the Mobos.
15 years into his career, grime star Getz won his first ever Mobo for Best Male, and an overwhelmed Little Sims was named Best Female.
I'm very, very speechless right now. I'm in the dream that I always dreamed about when I was young. Nobody.
That report from Mark Savage, and that's the BBC News.
The news came to you with the compliments of Eureka Medical Laboratories.
Don't let the fear of contracting the coronavirus disease deter you from seeking the medical care you need. At Eureka Labs, we ensure the safety of our clients and staff with our rigid sanitization routine. This involves the use of ultraviolet lights to effectively rid the air and all surfaces of viruses and bacteria that may be present throughout the lab daily. The light works to rapidly inactivate microorganisms through a physical process that is invisible to human eye. So the next time you need a checkup, don't hesitate to give us a call on 225-7574 to schedule your appointment.
And now to end the news, here is a recap of the leads. Locally, the Environmental Protection Agency is still searching for hard evidence to back up reports of pollution of the Atlantic Sea. A non-governmental organization wants the People's Progressive Party to table recommendations for constitutional reform. And in regional news, a senior military officer in Suriname has been held with more than 1,000 pounds of cocaine. And that's the end of the news.
This has been the news, compiled in the News Talk Radio Newsroom. For ongoing updates, visit demerarawaves.com, and you can check facebook.com/demwaves and twitter.com/demwaves.